Let's bring in Phillip Yun. He's the Executive Director of the Ploughshares Fund and joins us from San Francisco with more on these developments. Phillip, thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
First, let me ask you, what are we to make of the DPRK now saying that it's not safe for foreign embassy personnel to remain in Pyongyang?
Well, my reaction to that is it is part theater. What I've heard last is that the folks in the diplomatic corps in Pyongyang are not moving. I think this is just, again, the latest attempt for the North Koreans to try to ratchet up the pressure on the United States and South Korea. And I think very much like everything else, it's a lot of bluster. I heard in your earlier piece talk about the Musudan missile having the capability of hitting Guam. Let's be very straight about that. North Korea does not have the capability right now in any way, shape, or form to launch a missile that would hit Guam at this point, certainly one that is small, has a nuclear weapon. That Musudan missile is not operational. It has not been tested, and I really do think that for all this that's being, all the things that are happening is unsettling, but it is simply bluster at this point.
You say that North Korea is, or the DPRK is ratcheting up the pressure. What does it want? What does it hope to get out of all this?
Well, there are three things that I think North Korea wants out of this. First, there's a domestic component of this. Kim Jong-un is relatively young. North Korea is a Confucian society which respects age. He has to bolster his credibility. And in some degree, if there's some concern about consolidating power, what better way than to create a siege mentality? The second thing is really internationally. It's focused on trying to get benefits, whether it's cash or whether it's fuel or whether it's food. And then we have the situation where we have new governments in China, Japan, South Korea. And we have a new security team in the United States, and North Koreans are testing those people. They're testing us, in a sense, as to what we can do, what our temperament is, and how far are we willing to go in our resolve. So it's really important that we stand firm. And finally, I think there's a military component. I think the North Koreans definitely want to have a nuclear arsenal. And so all of this that is happening here on the peninsula is pretty much pretext, an excuse for them to continue moving forward on this.
Now, as you pointed out, the missiles that the DPRK have may not be able to, of course, reach Guam, but is there a chance that they could reach South Korea?
Yes, they have missile capability. They have two missiles, a short-range missile that can hit South Korea, and they have a medium-range missile, the Nodong, which can hit Japan. Now, the question is whether or not, if it's a nuclear weapon, whether they can make one small enough to fit on top of that. And there's some concern, some dispute about whether that in fact is the case. Personally, I don't think they've gotten to that point. But the larger question is, why would North Korea want to do something like this? They are not suicidal, and therefore they know if they did something like this, they would cease to exist. So this is something we just have to keep in mind. The real danger, I think, is miscalculation. We have a new leader. North Koreans are experienced at pushing the envelope, but I'm just not sure how much this new leader knows how far the envelope can actually go. And this is what is the real cause of concern on the peninsula right now, miscalculation.
Well, as you point out, miscalculation. Let's look at what the U.S. has been doing. It's been deploying anti-missile technology in Guam. It's moved some of its military assets into that region. And it's also conducting stealth bomber exercises with South Korea right now. Now, there are some concerns here in Washington as well, in the Pentagon, that the U.S. may have overreacted to this, and this is leading to a further escalation in tensions.
Well, I don't know whether or not, I've seen those reports, and I don't know whether, in fact, that's true that the folks in the Pentagon feel that they overreacted. Personally, I think what they've done is that they have shown their resolve with respect to this new leadership in North Korea, and they've done the steps that they need to do. I think the most important thing right now out of all this, and I'm sure the folks in the White House are thinking about this, is what we call an off-ramp. What is the end game to de-escalate? We've gone ahead and escalate. The United States has been part of that. There's no question about it. And I think some of that has been necessary to reassure our allies in face of very serious North Korean threats. And so the question right now is, how do we de-escalate? How do we find a way to start ratcheting down the pressure? In certain ways, North Korea is responsible for a lot of this. They have dialed it up, and I think they can dial it down. And we'll just have to see what happens in the future.
Phillip Yun, thanks for joining us, sir.